When I'm saying the Prof is an asset, so I can now say in Kiswahili, we say, wewe ni mali ya bara la Afrika. I see he's very happy. I'm going to ask Dr. Chikwatamba, who will come and introduce our guest speaker for us. And the Prof will be here for us to listen.
Well, good evening. There may be many protocols that must be noted and observed in this memorial lecture, and all of them are observed accordingly. My task is easy. I'm here to introduce him. Him who has been mentioned by the various speakers as they were conversing with you. Many people are aware of the fact that Professor Lumumba is here in our midst, and not any other Professor Lumumba, but Professor PLO. But many people are not aware of the fact that Professor Lumumba is an associate professor of public law. If I was supposed to ask, many of you will not know. It is good you are here. You will also know that he's the holder of an LLD Doctor of Laws on the law of the sea from the University of Ghent, Belgium, and the fact that he has got Master of Laws degree and Bachelor of Laws degree from the University of Nairobi. It is good you came because you'll be able to know for the first time tonight that he also holds an honorary degree of the Doctor of Letters from the University of Cape Coast in Ghana. He is quite very well trained, specifically on human rights, at the Institute of Advanced Legal Studies, University of London in England. Quite much more of a humanitarian law at the Raoul Wallenberg Institute of the University of Lund in Sweden, and on international human law in Geneva, Switzerland. He's an advocate of the High Courts of Kenya and Tanganyika and a certified mediator. When he comes here, you look at the body structure of this person, you won't believe what is written about him. He's a fellow of the Institute of Certified Public Secretaries of Kenya, a fellow of the Kenya Institute of Management, and an honorary fellow of the African Academy of Sciences. He's the chairperson of Farafina Investment Group in Monvorio. I want to emphasize that I said Farafina, not Sarafina. I know. He's the immediate former director and chief executive officer of the Kenya School of Law. Among other achievements that he has acquired in life, without reading every aspect about him, some of the things when he's speaking, you'll be able to see that there is much that is not announced about him, particularly because academically and scholarly, he has written several books, including Criminal Procedure in Kenya, among others, which I'm not mentioning. He has published numerous articles and several book chapters. You may want to know of the fact that he has co-authored 13 other books on integrity, on school series, and he has recently ventured into fiction with his book that he wrote that is called Stolen Moments. How he writes his books is how Ray Piri used to compose his songs. He has been named and recognized by the International Commission of Jurists and the Law Society of Kenya for the exemplary contribution to the legal profession. When I say legal profession, I just wanted to connect with him that when he comes and speak here, he might also want to know that recently the university had hosted the South African chapter of the International Association of Human Judges. It's not about that, but, Professor, I might just pass this over to you, particularly because of your law legal issues that I'm reading about here. He was recognized by the Kenya-USA Association for the Martin Luther King Jr. Leadership Award in 1996. But look at the man when he comes, you won't believe. And was the recipient of the 2008 Martin Luther King Africa Salute of Greatness Award by the Martin Luther King Jr. Africa Foundation. He has also been included on Who is Who in the World and is the distinguished Julius Nyerere Lecturer at the University of Dar es Salaam for 2014. He was the 11th Kwame Nkrumah Lecturer at the University of Cape Town of Cape Coast in Ghana in 2016. When I say Cape Town, I wanted you to listen to me, Cape Coast. On the 27th of May 2017, he was invested Chief Tamba Taylor of Liberia for his Pan-Africanist activities. He was awarded a Lifetime Achievement for patriotism and advocacy for the African Forum. Needless to mention that among many of his achievements and recognition, he also have got the African Luminary Award by African Cultural Association in the United States of America. Freedom of the City of the Lowell in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in the United States of America for his role in the fight against corruption and bad governance in Africa. Recognition by the House Representatives of the Commonwealth in the United States of America for exemplary work in the fight against corruption. He currently practices law. What do you expect with all these issues of law and law and law, which I read? With Lumumba and Lumumba advocates and coordinate activities under the PLO Lumumba Foundation. My brothers and sisters, if I have to read the whole of his brief profile, it will be a speech. But let me just request you, I don't know how you want to welcome him on the stage, whether you want to ululate, whether you want to clap a hand sitting down, whether you want to clap a hand rising on your feet, but you will see that the person is quite very small. But that is Professor Lumumba. Let us put our hands together as he comes to the stage.
Thank you very much. Let me start by saying how glad I am to be in your midst this evening. Permit me to recognize the family of Ray Piri, who are present in this assembly this evening. Permit me also to recognize the leadership of the University of Mpumalanga, the administrators, and the students who are present here, and the men and women who have taken their time to be with us on this occasion of the second memorial lecture in honor of Ray Piri, who was a great South African, and I dare say, a great African, and I dare say, a great human being. On an occasion such as this, one may find oneself imprisoned in speeches that do not speak to the essence of the man in whose memory we gather. But one may also choose to go down in history and try and understand that man. But one must start from the beginning. And the beginning, as I know it, is that in 1947, a great event took place in this province, in this part of South Africa, in Bombela, that a young man was born by the name Ray Piri. That was a great event. And if one were to make reference to the great Nigerian writer, the great Chinua Achebe, one would have said that a chick that will grow into a cock, and this also includes one that will grow into a hen, is identified on the day that it hatches. Phiri, I am told, even in those formative years, exhibited characteristics which were to be recognized a little later, and his acumen for the arts was evident in his early days. He matured to become a great and celebrated musician, and many of you are aware of the great songs that he wrote and sang. We have already been introduced to the songs that he composed: Fire, Love, and Ecstasy. He sang about mundane yet very deep things. He sang well. And he did not stop there. He also told us, as he composed his songs, listen, look, and desire. Today we are here listening. Today we are here looking. And today we are here desiring. What we desire, we will talk about later. But we are leaving some of his words. Music is at the very heart of human society. And when I remember Ray Piri and the place of music in human affairs, I'm also reminded of yet another great musician who celebrated the essence of music in man's life. Many of you will remember the great Tanzanian musician Remy Ongala Surambaya, which translated in English means the ugly face. He was not endowed with looks, but when he sang, he celebrated music. He reminded us that throughout human history, music has always been present, and he narrated. Romantically, he said that on the day of creation there was music. I do not know whether he was there, but he said there was music. He said that throughout the difficulties in human affairs, there is always music. When Africans were being enslaved and they were taken away, the only way in which they could communicate their anger and anguish was through music. When they were colonized, they communicated their anger and anguish through music. It is not lost on me that Ray Piri was born just 1 year before the institutionalization of apartheid in South Africa. And he lived through a period of pain. And when he sang, talked about love, talked about passion, talked about ecstasy, he must have been articulating the pain that he saw his people suffering. When he talked about looking, seeing, and desiring, he must have been talking about looking at what was happening, seeing what was happening, and desiring the change that you found with the death of apartheid. He must have been talking about that. And that is why, therefore, when on the 27th day of April, the year 2011, the then president of South Africa decided to recognize him with the Order of Mpumalanga, he was telling not only the family of Ray Piri, but he was telling South Africans and the world that this is a great man who did not only sing to entertain us, but also sang to transform us. That is why we are here today, to celebrate Ray Piri. He did not stop at entertainment. He was in the business of speaking to our hearts and minds. And he spoke to our hearts and minds, and that is why we are here. He did not live anonymously like some of us do, who, when you think about them, you only think of their date of birth and their date of death, and when you ask them for certificate, they can only produce two certificates, the certificate of birth and the certificate of death. Ray Piri had content between the date of his birth and the date of his death. He did not imprison himself here only in South Africa. He went to different parts of the world and worked together with other musicians in Africa in order to bring about change in South Africa. That is why we are here today to celebrate this great man. We are here today to remind ourselves what it is that he lived for. We are here to give meaning to his life. And when one is called upon to speak in honor of one, we must not only romanticize his past, but we must also ask ourselves what he would have said if he was alive today. What would he have said? And I can think of many songs that Ray Piri would have sung if he were present here today. One of the songs that he would have sung was in celebration of the emergence of democracy in South Africa. He would have said that my people fought, conquered, and are now free to vote, and they vote. He would have told them. But he would have asked them, what are you voting for? He would have asked. He would have been here singing about poverty and unemployment, and he would have told those who are in government, you have acquired all the instruments that we gave you, but today we are singing, we are asking you to look and to see that the people desire genuine change. Ray Piri would have said. He would have sung yet another song. He would have said, yes, we live in a continent which is still laboring under pain. And he would have told the South Africans, now that you have fire, now that you have passion, don't be ecstatic for the wrong things. Have fire and passion to build South Africa, that South Africa may be great and you can do it. He would have spoken to them from Durban in KwaZulu-Natal to Cape Town in the Cape of Good Hope. Phiri would have sung today, but he would not have stopped there. He would have visited today in his mental flight and his mind. He would have gone to Johannesburg and told the South Africans and the Africans, why are you fighting yourselves? He would have said. He would have reminded them that as I sit here, it pains me to see black fighting against black. He would have told them that we are children of one God. He would have reminded them. He would have asked them, I want you to have passion for unity. I want you to have love. And he would have said, as I look across Africa, Africa looks to you, South Africa, as a big brother endowed with wealth and mineral. Be the home of refuge for all Africans. He would have told South Africans, you South Africans, receive the Namibians. It is there your cousins. He would have told them, receive the Basotho, receive the Swazi, receive the Angolans, receive the Zimbabweans, receive the Zambians, receive the Angolans, receive the Mozambicans, receive the Tanzanians, that you may work together for a greater Africa. And he would not have stopped there. He would have said, South Africa is large enough for the Congolese, it is large enough for the Equatorial Guineans, it is large enough for Kenyans and Tanzanians and Somalis, and for Djibouti and for Ethiopians. You would have said, South Africans, receive them, because your land is the land of the Cape of Good Hope. You would not have stopped there. He would have said, go look into Nigeria, receive them, receive the Ghanaians, receive the Guineans, receive the Guinea-Bissauans, receive the Beninois, receive the Togolese, receive the Mauritanians, receive the Malians, receive the Cote d'Ivoirians, receive the Liberians, receive the Sierra Leoneans, receive the Moroccans, receive the Mauritanians, receive the Algerians, receive the Burkinabe, receive the people from Central African Republic, receive the Southern Sudanese, receive the Sudanese, receive the Algerians, receive the Tunisians, receive the Egyptians, receive the Libyans, because you are the land of the good hope. Ray Piri would have said. But he would not have stopped there. He would have said, don't forget the little island. Receive the Mauritians, receive the Madagascans, receive Sao Tome and Principe, receive Cape Verdeans, receive all these people, because history has demonstrated that those who receive give, and those who receive even more is given unto them. That is what Ray Piri would have reminded us. He would have reminded us that we too have a duty to serve our continent with great passion. Ray Piri would have reminded us that we should do that which is good simply because it is good to be good. He would have reminded us that those who seek never fail to find, but it depends on what you seek. If you seek justice in earnest, you will receive justice. He would have reminded us that revenge is not good, that revenge is food that should never be served to anybody. He would have reminded us. He would have reminded us that we must have purpose to our lives. He would have reminded us that to remain courageous at all times. He would have reminded us that he succumbed to cancer, but he was not humiliated by it. He would have reminded us. So we who are present here today, when we remember a man as great as that, we must remember that great men and women are born in specific places, but we can never own them. They belong to the entire world. He would have reminded us that when you do good things, you are immortalized. And we who are present here, you must remember the immortal words of Ray Piri when he says, don't dare give up. Don't dare give up. So today, I am present here to exhort each one of us to don't dare give up. We must never give up in our quest for that which is good. To the students who are here at the University of Mpumalanga, don't dare give up in your quest for knowledge that is relevant for South Africa. To the politicians who are present here, don't dare give up in your quest for service to humanity. Don't dare give up. To the religiously inclined who are here, don't dare give up in your quest in winning souls for God. Don't dare give up. To the family of Ray Piri, I'm telling you that great men never die. That is why we say, Ray Piri is dead, long live Ray Piri. Ray Piri can never die. That is why we are here to celebrate them. You only cry and weep for people who, between their birth and death, contributed nothing other than being a nuisance to humanity. Ray Piri was not such a one as that. He is a man who lived with purpose. He's a man who contributed immensely. He's a man who was not only recognized in his own village, he was a man who was recognized by his own nation. He was a man who was celebrated by the entire world, and he's a man who will remain immortal, and he's a man whose life is a textbook for us. He is a fountain from which we can drink. He is the source from which we can drink the elixir of intellectual enthusiasm. He is a man whose words have twisted meanings which only give meaning in a manner that is meaningful and useful and powerful and practical and enthusiastic and beautiful in our lives. He is such a man. That is the man that we are assembled here today to celebrate. This is a man who can be an example to all of us. Because what is man's life? If we cannot say that he came, He saw and he conquered. But what did he conquer? He came here in Bombela, in Mpumalanga, and he came and recognized that the only way in which he could make his contribution was through music. He came. He identified his talent and he used it. He did not use his talent for mere amusement, he used it for education. And he did not only educate, he transformed. And he did not only transform, he changed. And he did not only change, but he influenced. And he did not only influence, but he immortalized certain ideals. And it is those ideals that we are here celebrating. And we will have those ideals celebrated not only now, but generations yet to be born. We are in a good place this evening. We are in good company this evening. Ray Piri, wherever you are, up in the heavens with the great men, look and smile at us. Because when we look very carefully, with our minds and heart's eyes, great men like Ray Piri can be seen. Look and look in. You will see him. Today you can remember the beautiful days before 2017, when he smiled. Remember those beautiful days. Remember 2011, when he majestically stood before President Jacob Zuma and received the order of Mpumalanga. Let us remember that day. Let us remember the citation on that day. Before the president stood up and gave him the honor, let us remember, he said that he had been a great influence in music in South Africa, and he was. But he did not stop there. He said that he had been a great agent of social transformation, and he did not stop there. He said he was a great man. We too are repeating those very words, that he was a great man. Between 1947 and July the 12th, 2017, great events took place. A great man lived in our midst. That is the man whom we immortalized. The guitar obeyed him. The trumpet obeyed him. His voice obeyed him. He influenced us. Let us obey his immortal direction to us. We must not dare give up. So today, if we were to compose an anthem for Ray Piri, we would say, "Oh, Ray Piri, in your honor, we have fire for that which is good. In your honor, we have passion for that which is good. And in your honor, we are ecstatic for that which is good." We will tell Ray Piri, "Oh, Ray, today, this evening, we have come here, we have looked, we have listened, and we desire to do that which is good. Oh, Ray Piri, we will never give up. May God keep you safe in the heavens till we meet again. God bless you."
There you are, ladies and gentlemen. I told you that you don't just wake up one morning and say, "I'm a professor now." when the Prof was introduced, you actually saw what I was talking about. I want to say to you, Prof, Shukrani Mwalimu. I'm speaking Swahili, you understand? But I'm saying thanks so much, Prof, for this wonderful address that you have presented to this audience. And you could understand that the Prof was emphasizing to us what Ray was also doing, the importance of music. And for us as Africans, we all know that if you are sad, what do? You sing. If you are happy, you sing. And a lot of us, when you are in the bathroom, having a shower, you sing. That's why actually I sing. I even think maybe I need to record. Because when I'm there, that's when the me, actually, I even feel like I can, out of the bathroom, go and buy a guitar. But I'm saying the Prof was emphasizing the importance of music to us, and which Ray was actually propagating. And you also touched on Africa in oneness. Africa as a home for the people of Africa. You know, when you say this is my home, as the father of a home or the member of a home, you are actually keen to receive visitors. That is how we define a home. If you don't have visitors in your home, you must know there's something wrong. Now, when visitors come, you need to treat them with humility. And the Prof, referring to Ray Piri, also said, good people immortalized. You can die, we bury you, doesn't matter, but you are there because of the good things that you would have done. Then there are other people that they are there, but we actually bury them whilst they are alive because of the bad things that they do. And the Prof was encouraging us, ladies and gentlemen, that we need to do good things for other people. The service to humanity. And when you said our political leaders, MEC, I think that was saying to you as our leaders, the service to humanity is key. And of course, Prof, you are correct. This land of ours, South Africa, is actually the land of milk and honey. Some people mistake that for Israel and say land of milk and honey. Milk and honey in a country that is 26,000 square kilometers, half of it is a desert. Where is the honey there? But South Africa is the land of milk and honey. So the service to humanity is actually because we have all the things, MEC, that we need to service our people, to service our visitors and everything. So we can do much better. Thanks so much, Prof, for this wonderful address. And I was just thinking, ladies and gentlemen, that maybe we need to just ask the Ray Piri family if they can just stand so that we see them and give us that. So if we can give them just that opportunity to stand so that the audience can see them. Thanks so much. Thank you. We are now halfway the program, closer to the end. The program says we should allow a Q&A session where we accord the members who are here an opportunity to interact with the professor. But what I like with Prof. Lumumba, having listened to him and his different speeches and addresses, when he speaks, he actually answers questions that people want to ask. If no one asks any question, I won't mind, because I know he addresses, whereas he speaks, he actually dishes out responses to questions, and everyone's, oh, yeah, this is the response to my question, and then they are done, and so forth. But we would allow a few questions and accord the Prof the opportunity. I think the people in a lecture, they would want to interact and engage, so we can allow that opportunity. Maybe you can join me on stage. And what we'll do, we will do a few rounds of questions. So the first round will take 3 questions, which you would ask, and then accord the Prof the opportunity to respond. And then we may go to the second round. I'm not sure if we'll go to the third. So if there are any questions, interactions, engagements. Yebo Mama, that's the first. 2 and 3. So we'll start 1, we go 2, and 3.
Good evening, Dr. Maminza. Good evening, Professor. Thank you for the opportunity. I would like to ask the Honorable Professor on his views on the death penalty. Currently, South Africans are calling for the reinstatement of the death penalty. Do you think that the death penalty will be a good deterrent or an effective deterrent to criminal behavior, especially violence against women and children and rampant criminal behavior that we see in South Africa currently? Thank you.
Okay. Number 2, thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Siposetu Diwakwane, a third year student within the institution of the University of Mpumalanga. Now, as we all understand that the world, or South Africa as it were, is inherently a capitalist state, meaning that they are skewed ownership patterns of the means of production, meaning that the elite own more compared to the proletariat or the oppressed class. So my question to Prof. Lumumba is that many people are lamenting about the xenophobic attacks which are currently taking place in South Africa. But then a question that arose in my mind is that what is the relationship between the skewed ownership patterns of the means of economic production and the xenophobic attacks which are currently taking place within South Africa? Thank you.
Okay, number 3 there.
Good evening, Prof, and thanks for having us. Thanks for honoring our invite. Prof, most of them covered me. I was going to ask about the death penalty and the likes, and I just wanted to get like your point of view, like which economic sort of system do you think will be actually express the wealth of Africa in general, and then the unity? How do you see a united Africa, and what type of economic system do you actually envision working for Africa as a whole? And how do you manage to give a speech without reading even a speech card for that long? Thanks. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think I can respond for him for the last one. I told you, you don't just wake up and say, yeah, I'm a professor.
Thank you very much. I don't support the death penalty. And the reason why I don't support the death penalty is because the criminal justice system throughout the world has demonstrated that those who have the honor and privilege of presiding over guilt or innocence of people sometimes make mistakes. And for that reason, I hold the view that we must punish people who offend, but punish them in ways which allow us through review to correct if we find that there are errors. We have seen in different parts of the world through different NGOs, things like the Innocence Project in different parts of the world in the United States, where students in law schools go back to decisions that had been made, and it is discovered upon review that somebody had been convicted of an offense which he or she never committed. And if you look at many African societies, the methods of dealing with crimes was not always retributive. There is a sense in which very many African societies, I'm not saying all, many African societies had different methods of punishment which meant to rehabilitate the offender. In the recent past, we have seen this happen in post-genocide Rwanda. In post-genocide Rwanda, the international community put together the International Tribunal for Rwanda, which sat in Arusha. And they spent billions of shillings to convict very few people. But the Rwandese government, in their own wisdom, went back into their tradition, went back into history and said, we went through a genocide where neighbors rose against neighbors and slaughtered them like chicken. How are we going to take these perpetrators of genocide through a process that will mean we eliminate them? Why don't we have a system where people come and say, I killed your husband, I killed your wife, I killed your child, and I admit that it was wrong, and we go through a process of rehabilitation. Through the Gacaca method in Rwanda, a lot of people have been rehabilitated. And my view, therefore, is that any country that still gives premium to the death penalty must be persuaded by force of reason to abandon it. Number two, what systems of the economy, and I don't for one moment arrogate to myself the monopoly of wisdom. These are my thoughts, and my thoughts are informed by certain realities. And I'm using the word modern in a very guarded way. Perhaps the word modern is one that I should avoid. The post-colonial African state is also a neo-colonial state in many ways. And therefore, it may have appearances of freedom, but she is not free. Look at what happened in the 1960 in what are the former French colonies. The French, when they were leaving, asked their colonies to vote, yes or no, whether they wanted to remain within the French influence or they did not. The only country that did so was Ahmed Sékou Touré's Guinea. And the other one which nearly did so was Mali with Modibo Keïta, whom you students should know. But the French were very clever, and I'm using the word clever in quotes. They ensured that the former colonies remained under their influence, complete with a currency which until now is controlled and manipulated from Paris. So when we talk about the post-colonial state, we must remind ourselves that it is a neo-colonial state. And that therefore the means of production are still in the hands of the erstwhile colonizer. We don't say this as loudly as we should. But if you are to ask yourself who is in control of the oil in Cameroon, is Total or Elf? If you ask yourself who is in control of the oil in Gabon and the timber in Gabon, it is the French. It means, therefore, that your typical post-colonial and neo-colonial state is one where there is an unholy alliance between the former colonizer and the ruling elite, who are doing the bidding of the former colonizer. And those who are in the business of using beautiful language once said that once you are a puppeteer, you need not worry. Once you are a puppeteer, you need not worry what the puppet will do. You can predict. You can predict. And I think that I'm simply talking about France for the moment, because France's role in her nation, in her former colony, is the most pernicious today. One can talk about Portugal. If you talk about the former Portuguese colonies in Africa of Angola, Mozambique, Cape Verde, you will discover that the presence of Portuguese companies and Portuguese capital is alive and well. And you only need to recruit the people at the very top, and you need not worry about the individuals at the bottom, because, you know, as one person once said, the colonial master was very clever in a devilish way. They gave the Africans the crown, but remained with the jewels of the crown. So that in many ways you have African governments where you have black faces as heads of state, but the industries are still controlled from elsewhere. That is the nature of the colonial. But in my own view, we cannot, as Africans, keep on lamenting, because the problem with us Africans also is that we are prisoners of sorrows and lamentation. So we say, oh, God, let's not allow God to enter into these things which we can do ourselves. God is very busy with very serious issues upstairs. He has given us minds and hearts, and we had better use them, because the divine instruction is to go and subdue the world. On our part, we have allowed the world to subdue us. Then we are complaining, God, you know, and Pastor, you are here. There are certain things that can only be solved by hard work and logic, and yet we think they can be solved by prayer and fasting. That will not happen. So my own view is we must begin to do things for ourselves. If the land needs to be worked, we must work the land. And we cannot continue to work the land the way Abraham used to work the land with the plows. We've got to mechanize. If, as people say, if Africa did not benefit from the first industrial revolution, we must benefit from the fourth industrial revolution. And you know, in these matters, these very serious matters, nobody invites you. You invite yourself to the dinner table. And you get crushed the dinner table. So that you are noticed. You know, right now, many Africans, and I say this because Africans, people are on top of the dinner table eating silent steak and caviar, and we are under the table fighting over crumbs. This is what is happening. When you see black on black violence, it is essentially, what are we fighting for? Crumbs. Crumbs. The real meal is on the table. That is where we should be. That is where the good. But you see the problem, when you are under the table, you cannot see what is on the table. You only see the bottom of the table. And therefore, the only thing you can see are the crumbs that have dropped. And I'm suggesting to us, particularly we in the political class, deliberate efforts must be made. I know that in many African countries we suffered from certain historical advantages by dint of skewed systems of governance, particularly in the economic arena. Here in South Africa, you know that, and even the white people know and appreciate that going forward, it is completely untenable that a small population should have the majority of the land. They know. How then do you do it? Is it for a foreigner to come here and prescribe the solution? No, that would be arrogance. But it's for a foreigner to begin to persuade those who are in the eye of the storm that the sooner you are able to relinquish some of this land in an orderly and in a programmatic manner so that you do not disrupt commerce, the safer you are. Because let me tell you, a hungry and a poor man has no morals to tie him down. He cannot be asked to be orderly. Poverty makes him disorderly. Poverty makes him angry, and anger has no logic. Anger doesn't know what is on its path. If I've not eaten for 10 days and I see you holding cake and ale on 2 hands, oh, I will take them. I will take them even if it includes cutting your hand. I will take them. So in order to ensure that your hands are safe, you must invite me and say, there is cake here. Let us begin to share. But when one is hungry for a long time, you also don't give him a very large dose of food very quickly. You begin slowly, and you educate him. And I believe that that is what we must do in order to solve our problems. We were told by Ray Piri, look, listen, and desire. Let us look, let us listen, and desire to do the right thing for the general good. The last thing is, the last question, what kind of an economic system? When we were students at the university, and normally when you are students at the university, there is a sense in which, number one, you are a fire-breathing pseudo-revolutionary. First of all, you think that you have monopoly of knowledge and wisdom. And all of us suffer from what I call intellectual adolescence. And intellectual adolescence is fed very effectively by the slogans of Marxism, Leninism. Workers of the world, unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains. We said all those. And I remember when we were university students, we said that the human development has always been from primitive accumulation through to capitalism, through to socialism, and through to communism, where the state withers. And we live in Shangri-La, El Dorado, the land of gold. You and me know that that will not happen. You and me know that the real world is about cutthroat competition. You and me know that each society must have its own unique ways of doing things. You and me know that there is no one size fits all for all societies. You and me know that there are certain standards, certain things, irreducible minimums. One of them is that when we give people, men and women, opportunity to serve us, we want them to serve us. We want them to preside over our resources so that we have food on the table. We want them to serve us so that when we are sick, we have facilities where we can go in an affordable manner. We want them to use our taxes so that we can take our children to school and good quality education where we are taught the right thing. I remember yet another musician who was Fela Kuti of Nigeria, who used to say, teacher, don't teach us nonsense. So we want schools where we are not taught nonsense, where we are not told that David Livingstone discovered the Mosi Otunya Falls. No, he was the first Scotsman to see the Mosi Otunya. There were people there who lived with them. In other words, we are saying each society, and the beauty of Africa now Even here in South Africa, you will always have problems. Pastor, let me tell you a short story as I answer this question. I listened to a sermon, and in this sermon, the story is told of this unsettled soul. This unsettled soul was moving from church to church, looking for the perfect church. And he went to many churches until he met a pastor who told him, I'm told you are looking for the perfect church. You can never find it because you yourself are so imperfect that whenever you enter into any church, it becomes imperfect. And the moral of my story is that each society has its own problems, and civilization, in my view, means the ability to work within your society with its strengths and weaknesses is in a manner that is for the general good. Is South Africa moving in that direction? Perhaps not as fast as we want because we are impatient. But we must also remind ourselves that even in an era of perfection, there will always be those who seek to disrupt. The first coup attempt was in heaven. The first coup attempt, it didn't succeed. And the perpetrators of the coup were actually expelled, and they live with us, and they are very strong and dangerous. It's Satan and his host. And I'm using this rather melodramatically for me to demonstrate that if it could happen in the abode of perfection, how much more here? How much more here? But the truth is, be told, it can be done. And I'm saying, therefore, that in many African societies, we are now beginning to realize that capitalism in its classical sense may not be suitable. A friend of mine from Ghana, who is a traditional ruler, has written a book called African Tradition in Good Governance, the Ghanaian Paradigm, Professor Nana Kobina-Nkessie at the University of Cape Coast. And he's trying to say that African societies must now begin to understand how you deal with traditional governance systems in the face of what are current, I don't want to call them modern, but a mix of Western and current practices. How do you deal with them? South Africa has tried to deal with them with the kingdoms. Do you accommodate the kingdoms because they are value? People respect them. You go to Ghana, you find that they are kingdoms. You go to Nigeria, you find they are kingdoms. And they fit within that arena. But the most important thing, history has demonstrated this time and time again. Many people don't want all the things that we desire. Many people are not interested in Bugatti car. No, they are not. Many people are not interested in curved television, which you of the middle class are humored by. No. Many people don't want to go on holiday to Waikiki Beach in Honolulu. No. Many people just want good food on the table, not meat on a daily basis, not vegetables on a daily basis, a balanced diet. Many people don't want mansion. Many people just need decent housing. Many people just want good roads. Many people just want some change in their pocket so that they can live decently. And I think the countries that have got it right in this regard are the Scandinavian countries. Largely, I'm not saying they are perfect, but look at Norway. Their sovereign fund, as I speak now, is $1 trillion. In other words, notionally, every Norwegian child that is born and will be born in the next 10 years, even those whose parents have not gotten married, notionally, they have in their bank account something in excess of $100,000. Even those who have not been born. That is how you use your resources. But in many African countries, even those whose parents have not been born are in debt. They are in debt. Because our current leaders borrow for this generation and generation yet to be born. Yes. So we must do something that changes that, and it can be done. I've seen in the recent, I'm giving a very long answer, but I'm giving it so that it may also kill other potential questions. If you look at a number, and you know, sometimes when you look at CNN, and since I came here, I've received very many phone calls. Are you safe in South Africa? So I sent for to say I'm safe and actually enjoying wine. They can't believe it, because when you listen to the media, you think South Africa is burning. Is burning. So we must, in the nature of things, also begin to tell our story as Africans. And there are things that are happening in Africa. You go to a number of African countries and they are not perfect, but you can begin to see movement. Because the oldest African nation, post-colonial nation, is just over 60 years old, Ghana. And remember, we are doing this in the midst of a system that also wants to pull Africa down. You go to countries such as Ethiopia, they have their own problems, but you can begin to see efforts in some direction to address their problems. You go to Tanzania, you will see people saying dictatorship and other things, but you can begin to see efforts. You go to a country such as Rwanda, and you can begin to see some efforts in some direction. You go to countries such as Mauritius, you can begin to see some effort. Every African country is trying to do something. There are others, of course, which have greater problems than others. But I think Africa must now begin to tell our story. I was very happy about a few months ago when West African countries met. I think it was it in Monrovia in Liberia, but one of the African countries, and they say by next year, they are going to use one currency. The ECO. That is a good thing. As I speak today, Africa has 33 currencies. 33 currencies. So when I move out of here with my rand, I go to Mozambique, 120 kilometers away, Metico. I carry my Metico, I move another 200 kilometers, I go to Zimbabwe, which has yet to decide whether it is RTGS or the bond. But I find myself in such a situation. I carry my RTGS from Zimbabwe, I move to Zambia, another 1 hour flight, Kwacha. I move from Lusaka and I move to another Kwanza. So, and all these currencies are, when we talk of hard currency, there is not a single African currency that is hard. The opposite of hard is soft. So all our currencies are soft currencies. In other words, beyond our boundaries, they are mere paper. So I hold the view, and you young people who are present here, you must begin to stop thinking like us. Stop thinking like some of the people in the new generation. You've got to think differently. You know, China. I listened to the Chinese about a year ago when their leaders, 6,000 of them, gathered in Beijing, and they don't smile and they don't speak in very high tones. And they were thinking about how China is going to relate to the world 100 years from thence. 100 years. Some of you read the Bible a little bit too literally. That Christ said that even birds of the air do not farm, but they have food, that even the lilies of the fields do not do anything, and they have clothes. That is not what Christ meant. So these things that you are saying you are not going to plan, the divine instruction is this. When you are planning, plan as if you'll never die, and when you are praying, pray as if you are dying the next minute. That is the way. That is why the Bible says that you must keep for your up to the 4th generation. So my own view, you young people, they are saying, think outside of the box. I'm saying, think without the box. Yes. Because the box then becomes a point of reference. Eliminate the box, think without it. They are saying the sky is the limit. Which sky? The sky of the earth? Forget about the sky. Think about the galaxies. They are saying wait and heat the iron while it is hot. No, heat the iron so that it becomes hot. In other words, I hold the view. And I do not know, but I want to use this analogy found in the Bible because it's very powerful, and you don't have to be a believer. But for those who are believers, you will see it a lot more powerfully than anybody else. And there are two of them. One is to be found in the book of Daniel at chapter 3. And in the book of Daniel at chapter 3, there are three young men, Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, who are named Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And what happens is that there is a king called Nebuchadnezzar, and Nebuchadnezzar makes a statue 6 cubits wide, 6 cubits tall, and says everybody must worship it, and they say we are not going to worship it. And they say, our Lord will save us, but even if he does not. And I find that powerful. Belief in oneself. Belief in oneself. Sometimes we don't believe in ourselves and in our abilities. You know, these Chinese are very, I don't know whether you see them when they come. I saw very many of them yesterday at OR Tambo. They know what, even when they are walking, you know they know what they are looking for. And when you know what you are looking for, you are likely to get it. So let us learn from other civilizations. And we don't pick their weaknesses, but pick their strengths. That is, to me, the most important thing. Learn from the Chinese, learn from the whites, learn from the Koreans, learn from all each one of us, because God is a God of diversity. And each one of us has our strengths, black, yellow, white, and all those things. And I think we can make it. And we are going to make it. And people like Ray Piri here are telling us that we can make it. None of you here hold the order of Mpumalanga. And he did. There is a great, and this is what I conclude with, a great African whom you must all know. If you did not know him, go and Google about him. He was from Guinea-Bissau. He was called Amilcar Cabral. When he was fighting in the bushes, his name is Nom de Guerre. When you are in the midst of the forest and you shine like a pink poodle, even when the world is blind, they'll regain sight that they may behold you. God bless
you. Thank you so much, Professor. I think the way he dealt with the speech and the way he dealt with his answers, you are saying, no, I want to kill other questions. He covered a wide spectrum. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much. We are now moving to the next item of our program, the vote of thanks. We'll ask the chairperson of the MTA board, Mr. Thulani Nzima, to come and give a vote of thanks.
Program Director, thank you very, very much. What an anticlimax. From Professor Lumumba to Dr. Paul Mamiza, then to Thulani Nzima. It's a complete setup. I knew it was coming. I mean, really, Prof, you didn't have to come back to the stage, but it happened. I'm going to give you a vote of thanks, but I decided, let me start with some of the people and then end with the important person. just in case you feel like standing up and going, you must know I would not have given our thanks to the Prof by that time, right? So I will end with the Professor, with no disrespect to the Professor. Let me start with Anele Mbasane and his company, Homocept. Anele, just stand up and take a bow. This is the man and the brains behind where we are today. This is the man who saw the vision that many of us couldn't see at the time, to come up with a simple vision of the Mbombela Jazz Festival. It started like a music festival and is growing in leaps and bounds to where we are today. He didn't focus on prosperity and profits, but preservation, and not heavily driven by profits. This is what has brought the vision to where we are now. The Mbombela Jazz Festival, ladies and gentlemen, stands on 3 legs. The jazz part of it, the community outreach, which is equally very important in giving to those who don't have enough. And you get to know what contributions I'm talking about at some stage, not today.